Joe Biden, you talk about unifying the country. If you do not stand up against the impeachment of President Trump after he leaves office, you're an incredibly weak figure in American history. You need to stand up to the radical left and tell Schumer to dismiss what I think is an unconstitutional attempt to impeach President Trump out of office. Stand down.
Senator Lindsey Graham asking soon-to-be Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to lead a vote to dismiss the House article of impeachment against soon-to-be former President Donald Trump. In a letter, Graham calls the effort an unconstitutional act of political vengeance that will incite further division. There's that continued hint of more violence. And if we know one thing about Lindsey Graham, it's the fact that Donald Trump has an effect on him like no other man he's ever met, and Donald Trump, of course, has never incited division. Joining us tonight, Jason Johnson, a campaign veteran and journalist, contributor over at the Grio, importantly, a professor of politics at Morgan State University, and Rick Wilson, longtime Republican strategist who has since left the party. He's an author. He is also among the co-founders of the Lincoln Project. Rick, I can sense your love for the senator from here. As a big proponent of the big lie, do Senator Graham's words ring a little hollow at this point?
You know, Lindsey Graham has spent the last 4 years with his head planted firmly in Donald Trump's colon. And this is a guy who has no standing whatsoever to lecture anyone about division or comity or unity at all. He was the handmaiden of Donald Trump's enormous number of unbelievable lies about every possible thing. He has been at Trump's side of this the entire time. There's nothing about Lindsey Graham that deserves even a moment of seriousness here. He is playing this game out in Washington right now. He's working the refs. He's playing the media. He's trying to convince them that, you know, this is the mature adult way to pursue this, when in fact the adult way to pursue this is to impeach Donald Trump, convict him, and forbid him from ever holding office again, because he is a pernicious, immediate threat to this country in any format if he could ever rise up from the grave like some sort of orange zombie.
Speaking of which, Professor, I have a little something to play for you. This is Congressman Schiff on whether or not former President Trump should get the courtesy and availability of security briefings after leaving office. We'll discuss on the other side.
There's no circumstance in which this president should get another intelligence briefing, not now, not in the future. I don't think he can be trusted with it now, and in the future he certainly can't be trusted. Indeed, there were, I think, any number of intelligence partners of ours around the world who probably started withholding information from us because they didn't trust the president would safeguard that information and protect their sources and methods, and that makes us less safe.
Jason, I'm tempted to ask why he would start wanting to get briefed now, and I'm also tempted to ask what purpose would it possibly serve?
Yeah, Brian, I mean, we all know he didn't read them anyway. He would probably get them in the mail every day and say, what is this about? So, you know, the purpose is, as Adam Schiff sort of referred to and we've talked about for years, it's just national security. Donald Trump has been willing to sell America for spare parts at any opportunity, if not through just bragging about national security to foreign leaders. We don't know if members of his family might be inclined to sell that information. So since we can't imagine any future president seeking Donald Trump's advice in the event of a foreign policy disaster where it's like, hey, Donald, you know, President Trump, I really, really need your insight because of the great work you did in the Middle East during your one term in office. It doesn't make sense to give him information that he would probably only try and sell or wouldn't pay attention to one way or another. There is no more disturbing or sort of telling image of the post-presidency life of Donald Trump than stacks and stacks of intelligence briefings sitting outside his front porch every day because we know he's not going to read them. He'll probably just sell them to Jared Kushner.
Hey, Rick, it turns out Secretary Azar is going to be a trumpeter to the end. He said about the coronavirus and the incoming team today, quote, "This is a concerted effort by the new team to down-talk where things are so they can look like heroes when they come in and just carry forward the momentum we have established." Rick, it's tough to sugarcoat 400,000 dead.
400,000 deaths. I mean, look, this was Alex Azar, who stood quietly for 3 months last year in January, February, and March, where Donald Trump said, oh, it's going to go away. It's minimal. There's only 15 cases. It's nothing. It's the flu. You know, he stood quietly by with that. And now he's going to go out with like, going to leave this administration like a wet fart. Nobody's going to be happy with his performance because it was awful. It was terrible. It was embarrassingly bad, and it cost the lives of 400,000 Americans. All the swagger monkey types around Trump who've acted like that they've done everything perfectly, that they're leaving the world in good hands. You know, this is a country that is still in the midst of this pandemic, and the impacts of it are by no means even close to being final. We are going to pay the price for their indifference and their incompetence for a long time. And Alex Azar is one of those people that I know he's trying to go back into private industry right now, but I would hope that any company considering hiring him would find like a rabid dog on the street and put him in the office instead, because the guy is completely incompetent, and we have 400,000 dead people to prove it.
Both of these gentlemen are going to stand by while I quickly slide in a commercial break here. We'll resume our conversation on the other side with the stakes awaiting the president-elect. Incoming White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain has told senior staff that Joe Biden intends to sign about a dozen executive orders on day one of his inauguration. They include rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, rescinding the Muslim travel ban, and a mask mandate for federal property. Still with us, Jason Johnson and Rick Wilson. Jason, pretend we are in your poli-sci class. We are all your students. How much of the Trump years can the Biden administration, Joe Biden, starting on day one, do away with an executive order with the swipe of a pen?
I mean, this is the tip of a gigantic glacier that I would be drawing on the board when we're actually allowed to go back into class. I think that the Biden administration, look, they're starting off well. Paris Climate Accords, you know, climate change is a serious issue. You have to do something about mask mandates, both for symbolic reasons and for health reasons. All these things, you know, the pipeline, all these things make sense. But what the real danger is, and what Biden really has to face in order to undo Trump's damage, is he's got to go through every single bureaucratic agency and find the Trumpists, who have not been performing their jobs or are grotesquely incompetent, and remove them. He has to do something simple, Brian, as simple as he's got to reevaluate our post office. All the damage that DeJoy did last fall in order to try and hand the election to Donald Trump, like, no one has fixed that yet. Like, there are so many things that Joe Biden's going to do. I don't think he can fix them all with executive orders in 100 days, but I do think these first 3 orders are at least a nice start.
It is easy to forget in the list of the greatest hits. He did kneecap the U.S. Postal Service after all. Hey, Rick, I'm going to read to you as a Florida man from the Washington Post. Quote, some in Trump's orbit are talking up the idea of Ivanka Trump possibly running for Senate in 2022 when the term of Senator Marco Rubio will be up. Trump has become something of a pariah in the nation's capital of Washington and its financial center of New York in the wake of the January 6th riot that he incited. But Florida offers him a place to try to rehabilitate himself. Rick, I got to say, with Ivanka in there as advisor to the president, she really did keep our country strong, safe, and healthy. You agree?
You know, the work of Ivanka Trump has been just fearless in every way. And, you know, the fact that she's getting all this momentum in Florida against Marco is just a delicious schadenfreude moment for everybody, because, you know, he spent a lot of time kissing up to her. And now that she's talking very assertively out there, they're out there talking to political leaders in the state, trying to organize this thing. And we'll see what happens. But, you know, the Trump family seems to be moving here en masse. And, you know, it's already a state so full of Florida men and women that, you know, they're going to at least nudge the crazy average up a few notches. But Trump really does think that he can come here because there is a lot of Florida that is very, very MAGA. and very, very red. So it's going to be, and they're going to darken our door here and reduce the tourism value. But I'm looking forward to the presidential library in a trailer park in Opahumpa, Florida. When his $2 billion library is built. It's ridiculous.
Said the man with a cat in a dress alongside of him, because it's Florida after all. Professor Jason Johnson, Rick Wilson, Florida man. Gentlemen, can't thank you enough. It is always a pleasure, or something awfully close to that.